Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. We have ourselves a jam-packed show for you all, as we have a lot to get into in terms of the world of Southern California sports. As the Rams, they did it. They actually defeated the San Francisco 49ers. They won in the NFC Championship, and they will be going to the Super Bowl, where they will be taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. They actually beat the Chiefs. 4-seed versus 4-seed at SoFi. You gotta love it. Also, the Kings and Ducks are on the All-Star break in the NHL. However, they're both doing good as they're both tied for second in the Pacific Division. Also, the Clippers, once again, reign supreme on the Lakers, who just got LeBron James back. And what happened to UCLA men's basketball, losing to both the Arizona schools? And we've got a little discussion on the Busch Clash at the Coliseum. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And good afternoon, everybody. This is Teran Rodriguez. Welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Yes, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has to bounce around again because Teran Rodriguez lives a very, very busy lifestyle. But I did not want to miss the show just because we have a lot to get into in terms of Southern California sports. Without any further delay, let's get on into the Southern California sports action. But first and foremost, we have a word from our sponsors. The first sponsor for IE Sports Radio is the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to trout for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get the second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. The Southern California Warriors are on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, on Instagram at Southern California _Warriors, and on Facebook by typing in the word Southern California then Warriors. The second sponsor for IE Sports Radio is Background Check International Businesses. Are you looking to background check a new hire on? Let Kit Freeman take care of that for you. Kit has founded and managed Background Check International Businesses since 1994 and is here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes such as identity theft or other illegal activity. They do not have Twitter or Instagram, but they do have the Book of Faces, aka Facebook, as they're on Facebook by typing in the word Background Check International, then put a little dash, then BCI. They also have their website, www.bcint.com, and IE Sports Radio is also on social media, as they're on Twitter and Instagram at IE Sports Radio. And they are on Facebook by typing in the word IE, then sports, then radio. And they also have their website, www.iesportsradio.com. And when you go to that website, you will see a Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starts out at $5 a month, which gets you a shout-out from all 29 of our shows. Higher tiers include iSports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, the podcasting university of iSports Radio, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of the flagship show for iSports Radio, The Defining Moment with Larry B. Because for the last 7.5 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, other authorized media personnel, all the way to coaches. And they have also been building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we are continuing to be by the fans and for the fans. And with your help, we are ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you, everyone, for helping make iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And we'd like to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel and Marcus Losgreat. And a shout out to the iSports Radio Fan of the Month for February, at Spuds Chat. He is a Rams fan from San Diego. Yes, I am not kidding you. He's a Rams fan from San Diego, and he's been a guest on 3 and Out throughout the Rams' journey through the NFL playoffs. He even teamed up with me to help win a primetime face-off against a pair of 49ers fans. And that's actually perfect segue to go into, as the Rams and Niners met for the 3rd time in the NFC Championship, as the Niners won the first 2 matchups in the regular season, but this time the Rams were able to pull out the victory. Now, this matchup was so all over the place. So the Rams scored first, then the Niners scored after that, as Stafford found, I believe it was Cooper Kupp, and then Jimmy Garoppolo found Deebo Samuel, and then toward the end of the first half, Robbie Gould kicked a field goal to put the Niners up 10-7. And then I believe it was like in the middle of the third quarter, or near the end of the third quarter, where Garoppolo found George Kittle for a touchdown. And I'm just worrying about this, as we also say hello to Larry B in the chat room, as we also say hello to Mike Pat in the chat room. He says, "Good day, Teran." And Larry says, "SoCal." I appreciate you both tuning in. But back to the football game. So the Rams were down 17-7 at that point, as they were driving to I think they were in the red zone, and it was the end of the third quarter, and I'm thinking, well, the Rams probably had a good run. They still do not have the answer for Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. All hope was not lost after that, though, as Matt Stafford found his favorite wide receiver, Cooper Kupp, for the touchdown, as the Rams cut the lead down to 17-14. Then the Rams were able to get a stop, despite Sean McVay making stupid challenges and using all of his timeouts. Like, I think it was about the 8 or 9 minute mark of the fourth quarter, and the Rams were out of timeouts, and I'm just like, bro, what are you doing? And I'm just thinking, oh, the Rams are not going to be able to utilize this. And then eventually they were able to get on their next drive. They got a field goal from Matt Gay, as that tied the game up at 17-17. Then eventually the Rams were able to get a stop, which was quite surprising. I'm like, Jiminy Christmas. I thought at first the defense was cooked because the Rams weren't stopping Deebo Samuel and whatnot. So the Rams forced a 3 and out, and eventually they drive down the field only to come away with a field goal with about like a minute and change remaining. So obviously I was thinking, well, if the Niners utilize this correctly, they could either get a game-winning touchdown or they can get a game-tying field goal, and it's going to have to be won in OT again. Little did I know that this was the time for the Rams to shine, as the Rams were able to get the stop. They actually forced Jimmy G into a turnover, as Aaron Donald, who hadn't sacked anyone all game. Matter of fact, the Rams did not sack the Niners at one point, and at this point of the game against the Niners, I'm thinking, well, Jimmy G's probably going to get unscathed. And it was at that point where Garoppolo was getting pressurized from Aaron Donald. It looked as if this was going to be the first sack of the game. And it looked like it was going to shave off some time and put the Niners in a third or fourth and goal situation. So it looked as if that was going to be it, as it was 3rd and 13. And then Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't understand why he did this. He flipped the ball. He tried to flip it to JaMychal Hasty, went off his hands, and it was eventually intercepted. And that eventually was the game right there. As, yeah, the Rams were able to pull off the victory, as it was Travin Howard who got the interception. I didn't even hear of this guy until he got the pick, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the Rams actually pulled it off. And boy howdy, that was a big win for the Rams. It was probably a statement win, but I feel it was more so the Niners lost that one than the Rams won. And I'm not trying to take away anything from the Rams' win. They really worked hard for that. The fact that they were able to rip off 13 straight points in that fourth quarter while holding the Niners to nothing was very impressive. Now, however, you look at the 49ers side of things, they didn't really utilize Deebo Samuel all that much in the fourth quarter, which I think was a disappointment just because Deebo Samuel had been roasting, shredding, cooking, burning the Rams all series long, and everyone was thinking that Deebo Samuel was going to have a big game, but unfortunately for the Niners, they just didn't utilize him in the fourth quarter, and eventually that cost them. And I feel that the Niners were also getting too cute. Like, the third to last drive for the Niners, they tried to, get cute with it. I think it was, 2nd and 1, they got no gain, and then it was 3rd and 1, they lost one, and then they tried to draw the Rams off sides. I feel they should have gone for it. It was, near midfield. If you get the first down, you basically can run the clock out and try to get a game-winning field goal. But instead, they tried to draw them off sides, and it didn't work. And then it was a punt, and eventually the Rams were able to get the go-ahead field goal, and they got the stop, which eventually led down to the kneel down. So, for me, I think the Rams really, I wouldn't say they lucked out, but I feel it could have been a little bit cleaner of a game. Matt Stafford obviously was good. He only turned the ball over once. I said if he turns the ball over more than once, then it's game over. And Stafford was 31 for 45 in terms of passes, 337 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Both of those touchdowns were to Cooper Kupp. And thankfully, as a team, the Rams didn't turn the ball over all that much like they did against the Bucs. Now, obviously, the rushing yards was kind of an issue for the Niners, as I'm surprised they only had 50 rushing yards as a whole. They should have really rushed the ball more against the Rams. The Rams were a bit better prepared for that, but that had been the Achilles heel. They had Elijah Mitchell, they had Deebo Samuel. I'm surprised they just didn't, utilize the run game all that much. So, I think for the Niners, this was kind of a damaging loss, because they had all the momentum going in. Everyone was saying, oh, we own the Lambs, we're the best, we own Sean McLean. Kyle Shanahan is Sean McVay's daddy, all of that stuff. Aaron Donald is Deebo Samuel's son. I laugh at you all for saying that. And also, where were all of these Niners fans about the whole SoFi South thing? Or, I'm sorry, Levi's South thing. They were all saying that they were going to take over SoFi Stadium, and it was going to be Levi's South. Little did you all know, games are won on the field and not in the stands. So do me a favor, throw that out. It's worse than hearing the Raiders fans saying that SoFi Stadium is Allegiant Stadium in California. Come on, people. Like, who cares if you have more fans in the stands? It's all about the players on the field and coaches. All right. Now, the Rams advance to the Super Bowl where they will take on the Cincinnati Bengals. And yes, I'm not hallucinating. The Rams are taking on the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl, not the Kansas City Chiefs. As the Rams take on the Bengals defeated the Chiefs in overtime 34-31. It wasn't 34-31. I'm thinking of another game. 27-24 was the final score. So, for the Bengals to pull off that big of a victory when they were underdogs against the Chiefs on the road, mind you, it's quite impressive. So, I'm very surprised that the Bengals were able to win that game, and I thought we would see Patrick Mahomes in his 4th straight Super Bowl. So, good on you, Bengals. But now we will be getting Ohio versus Los Angeles round 2. Round 1, well, actually round 3, because round 1 was Cleveland Browns versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Round 2 was the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Los Angeles Chargers. And now round 3 will be the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Los Angeles Rams. So, for me, it's going to be a great Super Bowl. It's finally not going to be Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or any of that sort of stuff. Like, I'm happy we're getting different quarterbacks being able to witness and embrace history. Because Matt Stafford had been ridiculed a whole lot with not being able to win a playoff game. And I feel it was the Detroit Lions that held him back, because that organization was complete donkey do. Whereas for the Cincinnati Bengals, I like their story. They came in as the 4th seed. They won the AFC North, but they have barely been able to beat all their opponents. The same can be said for the Rams as well, as they barely got past the Bucs as well as the Niners. And I don't think that first-round matchup against the Cardinals didn't do them any justice. But I do kind of get to flex on some of the Niners fans that were telling me, oh, the Rams' opponents haven't been anywhere impressive, while the Niners have beaten a Cowboys team on the road, Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay on the road. We're going to beat the Rams again. I'm sorry to all you Niners fans out there, but I kept on trying to tell you it's tough to beat a team 3 times in one season. But y'all kept living in your fantasy world where Jimmy Garoppolo was football Jesus, and he was going to be your Lord and Savior and carry you to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And I give credit to Jimmy Garoppolo a whole lot. I don't think he gets the credit that he rightfully deserves. But for me, I think that his time was up against the Rams, just because the Rams needed to make a statement win, and I think they were able to do so. So I'm very impressed for the Rams, even though I'm a Chargers fan at heart. I really gotta go for the Rams for this one. I'll be previewing the Super Bowl more so next week, as I'll probably have this show on maybe Saturday, just because Friday I'm going to UCLA Long Beach State for men's volleyball, but I digress. So for the Super Bowl, this is going to feature Joe Burrow, who tore his ACL last year, and it looked as if it was basically going to be an uphill climb for him. But the fact that he made it all the way to the Super Bowl with his team, despite not having the best offensive line, despite them drafting Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell, it's rather amazing. So I think for the Bengals and the Rams, this is going to be an unpredictable Super Bowl. Now, many people say that the Rams match up better against the Bengals more so than the Chiefs, but with how the playoffs have been going so far, I think this could be anybody's ball game. So expect fireworks, expect wackiness, expect all colors of the rainbow in Super Bowl 56 at SoFi Stadium. The game will be at SoFi Stadium. However, the Rams will be the away team, which is disappointing. We won't get to hear "Whose house?" whenever the Rams take the field when they start their opening drive. So, yeah, I'm going to really look forward to this Super Bowl. Luckily, I will be able to see the full of it despite me having to work. So all in all, I cannot wait for next week when the Rams take on the Bengals. I want to say the last time these two teams met, Andy Dalton was still the quarterback, and now it's a whole different Bengals team, and basically more is on the line, and I can't wait for it. So there's that for the Rams / the NFL portion of the show. I don't really want to talk too much about the Chargers just because they do have players in the Pro Bowl. Justin Herbert, Derwin James, Corey Linsley, and Rashawn Slater all made the Pro Bowl, which is awesome. Justin Herbert threw a pair of touchdowns to Mark Andrews, the tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. Shout out to the DMV and Mike Pat. Speaking of Mike Pat, he says, Cooper Kupp is a freaking beast, but I have been most impressed with Larry's boy, Joseph Notaboom. Yeah, I think Notaboom has definitely done well, and Cooper Kupp is a freaking beast. I feel he could be MVP, but it's probably going to go to Tom Brady. It has to go to Tom Brady. Speaking of Tom Brady, he did announce retirement, and I know this has nothing to do with Southern California, but it's funny how the Rams beat the Bucs in the divisional round, and then Tom Brady announces retirement. I don't really want to say that the Rams forced Brady into retirement, but I feel that it was kind of fitting that the Rams were the ones that sent him into retirement, or that beat him last. Just because, well, Tom Brady's first Super Bowl came against the then St. Louis Rams, and now it's going to come, and now the end of his career is going to be against the Los Angeles Rams. So, all in all, for the Rams, I think it was quite fun that they were able to pull out that victory and prevent Tom Brady from making a comeback. So, for Tom Brady, I do salute him. I know he beat the Chargers a whole lot, and he only lost to them twice, and he never lost to Phillip Rivers, which made me even more sad face. But I enjoyed Tom Brady's career, and I hope he has a great retirement. Stay all the way back from the NFL. So this is going to be quite interesting to see the NFL without Tom Brady. And I did appreciate his greatness. I just hate how the greatness sometimes came against the Chargers, and for Rams fans, it came against the Rams, especially in Super Bowl 53 and the Super Bowl back in, 2000? 2001? Regardless, it was Tom Brady's first ever Super Bowl win. So, there's that. And just to close the book on the NFL portion of the show, it's going to be fun to see one team between the Bengals and the Rams win the Super Bowl. If the Bengals win, it'll be their first Super Bowl, but if the Rams win, it'll be their first Super Bowl, or their second Super Bowl since winning it back in '99 when they defeated the Tennessee Titans. Also, if the Rams defeat the Bengals, I want to say the last Super Bowl won in Los Angeles was '92, and that was by the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I will definitely look that up and fact check it, just because I want to say the Las Vegas Raiders were the last team to win a Super Bowl in Los Angeles. Because remember, the Raiders bounced around from Los Angeles to Oakland, or was it Oakland to Los Angeles to Oakland, then now to Vegas. So, there's that right there. So, there's that for the NFL portion of the show. Continuing on from the college football aspect, we'll actually jump to that topic as, oh boy, USC managed to land themselves a big transfer as Caleb Williams, the former Oklahoma quarterback who was coached under Lincoln Riley back at Oklahoma, has transferred to, we don't need a drum roll, USC. So the Lincoln Riley effect is having a huge impact for the Trojans, as they not only got Lincoln Riley, but they are nabbing a whole lot of Oklahoma recruits. Not just Caleb Williams. They're recruiting players that had originally committed to Oklahoma, but now have switched their commitment to USC, which is quite phenomenal. So one of those players that I'm familiar with is Malachi Nelson and Makai Lemon of Los Alamitos. I kind of covered them back in the fall of 2021, so there's that. But I'm really excited for this USC football season. I just really hope they can live up to the hype. I hope the expectations don't give them a big head and then they wind up peeing the bed and eventually just whiffing this past season. So there is that right there for the college football scene. And jumping over to some more non-miscellaneous sports or miscellaneous sports, we have the Busch Clash or the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. So for the Busch Light Clash, it's basically, I want to say it's the first race in Southern California, which is quite nice. And I promised everyone I would make note of this. And I really like how it's being played in Southern California and in the Coliseum, where USC plays, the Los Angeles Coliseum or LA Coliseum, whatever it's called. So the Busch Light Clash is being played at the Los Angeles Coliseum, and I really like it. I really think it's a great addition. It's to get NASCAR involved in Southern California, just because NASCAR has different races in Talladega and Indianapolis, and the list goes on, but they don't really get California involved all that much. But having the Busch Clash in Southern California is really, really, really cool. And I really like it. I think that it's great for the sport of NASCAR to enhance everyone and to get more people involved all over the world, and not just for Midwest, not just in the Midwest. Get everyone involved. Get everyone involved in terms of a race. So that's kind of my little spiel right there. I think it's a great idea, and I don't know what's happening right now in terms of the Busch Light Clash, but if I do find out an update on this, I will definitely let you all know, just because, well, obviously it's in Southern California and it's in the Coliseum, so I think it would be fair if I were to give you all an update on the Busch Light Clash, just because, well, for starters, this is probably a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and I think it would be pretty cool to have an update on this and to basically have more racing in my backyard and whatnot. So obviously Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Chase Briscoe, William Byron, Kyle Larson, I almost said Kyle Busch again, but Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon, and many others like Ryan Blaney are in this race. So it actually starts at 3 p.m., which is really cool, as I thought it started earlier, but regardless, it's going to be on Fox, which is awesome. It's going to be nationally televised, which is really spectacular. So there's that right there. Just wanted to get that Busch Light Clash out of the way, just because I don't really talk a whole lot about racing, and I feel bad for it, but there's basically your racing fix for all you racing fans. Anyway, so let's jump on into some basketball now. Let's talk some college hoops. We're going to go all around the world as, oh my gosh, UCLA men's hoops. I am disgusted by UCLA men's hoops. They lost to both Arizona schools. Yep, I'm saying it right now. They lost to both Arizona schools. Arizona, which was kind of expected just because UCLA poked the bear, or the Wildcat, and then they lost to Arizona State in triple overtime. I am not kidding you. USC lost to UCLA in triple overtime. Let's start with the Thursday game between Arizona and UCLA. So this one took place in Tucson, Arizona, as the Wildcats defeated UCLA 76-66 at the McHale Center. Obviously, this was kind of to be expected, as Kerr Kriisa led Arizona with 16 points, while Jules Bernard led the way for UCLA with 15 points. Every starter was in double digits except for Tiger Campbell, who just barely did not crack double digits, as he only had 9 points. Whereas Arizona was the same way, except for Christian Coloco, who had only 6 points, but he's basically their big man. But, on the other hand, for Arizona, Pell Larson was able to chip in 12 points off the bench. As a team, Arizona hit 48% from the field. They were 24 for 50 from the field, while Arizona was just an abysmal 38.9%. I wouldn't call it abysmal, but their three-point shooting was abysmal, only making 3 3-pointers. You can't beat Arizona on the road with that. You just can't, especially when two of those 3 3-pointers came from the starters, while the other one came off the bench. Now, that wasn't the bad loss. UCLA's next loss was to Arizona State last night, as they lost in triple overtime, losing 87-84. And I'm like, oh my good golly gracious, how do you lose to Arizona State? I get it was on the road, but Arizona State, despite them playing a lot of close games, were just so inconsistent. I just couldn't believe this. They lost 87-84, and it was almost too bad to be true. I'm like, really? UCLA is having this much trouble? Keep in mind, UCLA is the number 3 team in the nation, or was the number 3 team in the nation at the time. Unfortunately, they're now going to be tumbling way back, not just in the AP coaches poll, but in the Pac-12 conference, as that loss puts them into a tie for second place with Oregon, but due to Oregon beating them, they're kind of above UCLA. So it really does suck to see UCLA lose, but, they should have been a little bit more prepared. They know how precious every Pac-12 game is, and already having one loss was bad, and facing an Arizona team who was basically locking horns with you and that wanted revenge also added fuel to the fire. So it sucks for UCLA, but honestly, they have no one to blame but themselves. As for USC, however, they split their Arizona matchups, or their matchups against the Arizona schools, as Thursday they beat Arizona State 58-53. I was a little concerned that USC was going to beat Arizona, or wasn't going to beat Arizona State, just because obviously it's a trap game, and then facing Arizona was definitely a big-time boo-boo and a big-time matchup right there. And then for UCLA, or USC, they lost to Arizona last night, losing 72-63. They actually weren't too far behind at halftime, as they only trailed 29-28, but unfortunately, Kerr Kriisa was able to power the Wildcats yet again, and Azuolas Tubelis was able to power the Wildcats as well. And then Christian Coloco had himself a big game. Tubelis had a double-double with 18 points and 11 rebounds. The 18 points actually led the Wildcats, while USC, on the other hand, they only had one player in double digits, and that was Isaiah Mobley, who had 15. Isaiah White chipped in 9 points off the bench, and a lot of USC's bench players actually got to score points. The only one that wasn't able to do so was Kobe Johnson, which is a bummer, but he did get 2 minutes of playing time. He missed his only field goal attempt, so there was that. So as for USC in terms of the Pac-12 standings, they are all the way down to They're actually 6th in the Pac-12, but they've played more games than Washington and Washington State, which I'm pretty sure USC could beat them again if they do get the chance to. USC actually gets to play a non-conference opponent as they play Pacific on Tuesday. It's going to be at the Galen Center, while UCLA will be entertaining Stanford this coming week as they play at Maples Pavilion or wherever they're going to play their games, because Maples Pavilion always loves to have its schedule conflicts with other teams. But then next Saturday, UCLA will be hitting the road, and I use that term lightly just because it's not a far drive, as UCLA will be playing USC at Galen Center for a 7 p.m. start time. I imagine that game is going to be on prime time. It's going to be like on ESPN or nationally televised, so I really think it's going to be fun seeing UCLA and USC. Obviously, UCLA needs the win, but USC also needs the win more so. At this point, I don't know if either team's going to be catching Arizona, just because Arizona has just been phenomenal. And with UCLA having 2 setbacks, not just against Arizona, but Arizona State, I think this isn't going to bode well for UCLA, just because the Bruins needed at least to split on this road trip. Something else I do need to make note of is that Washington State and Washington play USC and UCLA the following week after next week, as Washington State and Washington play UCLA, while the Washington and Washington State play USC at Galen Center. So there is that right there for UCLA. I think there's still time for UCLA and USC to possibly make a run to the Pac-12 regular season championship. However, it looks like they're just going to have to win the Pac-12 tournament. So there's that right there for UCLA and USC. I definitely also have to get into some Big West men's basketball talk, as boy howdy, the Big West men's basketball standings have just been all over the place, as believe it or not, Cal State Fullerton and Long Beach State are atop the Big West Conference standings. Did anyone have that on their bingo card? Probably not. But getting back on track here, for Long Beach State, they have actually won 8 in a row. I'm really surprised, just because conference play always seems to hamper Long Beach State quite a bit. Which, I wouldn't say that in a mean way, but I just feel that it's been a struggle for Long Beach State, especially when they're trying to string together several wins in a row. Their only loss came at the hands of Hawaii, losing 72-67 at the Pyramid. So currently Long Beach State, like I said, they're tied for Fullerton for first place in the conference, as believe it or not, the two actually face each other on Tuesday at the Pyramid. And there was actually something really funny for when it came to Long Beach State, as I want to say it was Andy Fee. Andy Fee was, or whoever runs the Long Beach State athletics Twitter account, that said person went on Twitter, or actually no, it was Andy Fee. I'm just trying to find the tweet that I got to see, which really made my day. So this happened a couple days ago, and Andy Fee says, "Hey, at Snoop Dogg, Long Beach State men's basketball and Long Beach State women's basketball are in first place in the Big West Conference. Would love to see you at the Walter Pyramid cheering our athletes on. We love repping the LBC, and we need you showing out for the beach. Hashtag straight out of Long Beach," and also hashtag LBC, and then he also says hashtag 562. Now, I definitely get that. I definitely get reaching out to Snoop Dogg, because PR and promoting yourself is definitely important. I just feel it was pretty funny, just because does Snoop Dogg really want to take time out of his day to see Long Beach State men's and or women's basketball? Perhaps, if he's not busy. And with this big-time game against Cal State Fullerton, I think it would be essential for Long Beach State to have Snoop Dogg at the men's basketball game. I think that would be quite crucial right there, and I think it would be quite fun to see that happening. And who knows, maybe I'll make an appearance and actually go to the game. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, though. Now that I mentioned Long Beach State women's basketball, I guess it would be fair to talk about them. They are actually tied for first place in the Big West Conference with UC Irvine. Surprisingly, I wouldn't say surprisingly, the Anteaters are having a good season as well as the Beach. They're not the 49ers. Don't you dare get into that trap. The Beach's only losses have come against Cal State Northridge, losing 64-50. And then it also came against UC Davis, a very good team year after year, losing 68-58. So the Beach plays at Cal State Fullerton on Tuesday. So for me, Long Beach State is definitely looking to try to keep their, I wouldn't call it a winning streak alive, but they're definitely trying to keep pace with the rest of the teams in the Big West Conference. UC Davis is surprisingly 3-5, and then Northridge is 3-6. So I feel the Big West Conference in women's basketball is super duper duper wide open. Even UC San Diego has a chance. They're only 2 games back of Irvine and Long Beach, so I think it would be quite fun to see a Big West Conference with a lot of parity. And Hawaii is actually chilling 1 game back of UC Irvine and Long Beach State. Obviously, COVID has been a thing for most of these schools, but for the time being, I think the Big West Conference in women's basketball is looking very wide open. And men's basketball is just as wide open. I don't think anyone predicted Fullerton or Long Beach being atop of the standings. It's so unusual to see UC Irvine not atop the standings, or maybe UC Santa Barbara atop the standings. I think it's great parity for the Big West Conference, and it's not just the same team over and over and over and over and over and over again, because I'm not trying to say I don't want to see Santa Barbara or UC Irvine atop the men's basketball standings. I'm just saying it would just be more fun seeing a little bit more parity and a little bit more originality. I'm not gonna hate on Long Beach State or any of the other Big West Conference teams. They're just trying to make it do what it do. But going back to the men's basketball side of things, Fullerton and Long Beach facing off one another is going to be a great matchup. I think that's a underrated matchup to watch for us. We say hello to Adam Karnick in the chat room. He says, "Evening, Teran. I appreciate you tuning in. Just talking some college men's basketball and a little college women's basketball." As Adam says, I'm keeping him company as he's cooking in the kitchen. What's for dinner, Adam? Regardless, have fun cooking, my brother. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to Long Beach State, Fullerton. I wish I could go to that matchup, but I'm probably going to be busy, especially since I have work the next day. So there's that right there. So that's going to do it for some college men's basketball. Now that Adam Karnick's actually popped in the chat room, I might as well talk some NHL, just because he is the co-host of the Neutral Zone. And definitely do check out the Neutral Zone every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's always a fun show. He and Zach Puplis love to talk their hockey. So let's jump on into the Los Angeles Kings and the Anaheim Ducks. So the Kings and the Ducks, they're actually tied for second place in the Pacific Division, as the Kings just barely have a better record than the Ducks. They're 24-16-7 as they're at the All-Star break, while the Ducks are 23-16-9. Both teams have 55 points, and both teams are 2 points behind the Vegas Golden Knight. As Ab says, garlic stuffed chicken breast and sweet and tangy glazed honey carrots with cranberries. Interesting. That's pretty cool. And have fun with that and enjoy your dinner and try not to burn the kitchen down. And remember when it comes to making chicken, always turn on the oven, because without the oven, the chicken can't cook. Anyway, going back to the Kings, so obviously they are in the All-Star break of things, but they did play some games prior to that, as last Saturday they lost to the Philadelphia Flyers 4-3, which was actually embarrassing, as Adam says that the Kings have played one game less, which I think, I don't know if I said that, but if I didn't, then the Kings have actually played one game less than the Ducks have, so they do theoretically hold the tiebreaker. So back to the Kings' loss to the Flyers. They lost to the Flyers team who had lost 13 in a row, and I'm like, why? Why did you have to lose to the Flyers, Kings? And I'm just shaking my head here. It's like, oh my goodness. And it was 2-1 after the second period. Then it was 3-1, and I'm thinking, goodness gracious, Kings, you can't be doing this. But then they were able to get some help from a power play goal, and then Anze Kopitar was able to knock in the game-time goal with less than a minute to go in the third period. Unfortunately, the Flyers were able to win in overtime, but hey, at least the Kings got a point. Can't give them too much grief. So there was that right there. And then last Sunday, the Kings bounced back to defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-3. And then this past Wednesday, the Kings defeated the Detroit Red Wings 5-3 on the road, which was quite nice. So I'm really liking the turnaround from the Kings. I think the Kings are really impressing me. I think that they can continue, if they can continue to make such a big impact, I think they could have a chance to make the playoffs, if not maybe make a deep playoff run. We'll see. As for the Ducks, so the Ducks weren't necessarily the luckiest birds in the pond, as they didn't really play too many games. All they had were the Ottawa Senators and the Detroit Red Wings. So the Ducks beat the Senators 2-1 this last Saturday, as Jonathan Gibson had 44 saves, which was quite nice. And Raquel had the first goal, and then Ennis had the second goal, or Ennis had the goal for Ottawa, and then Troy Terry added the go-ahead goal early on in the third period, which eventually was the difference maker, and that was pretty cool because the Ducks were able to win on the road, which it's always tough to get a win on the road. Hence, the Ducks losing to the Detroit Red Wings on Monday 2-1 in overtime. But I'll give the Ducks this. They were able to salvage a point. However, Jordan Osterley won it for the Red Wings in overtime, which was tough. Raquel had the only goal for the Ducks, as the Ducks go into halftime, or not halftime, the All-Star break, basically a game behind the Kings, even though they've played more games. As Adam says, Philly's losing streak had to end eventually. Just happened to be the Kings, right? or I'm sorry, just happened to be the Kings' night. And he also puts night as in Golden Knights, just because that's the team that the Kings and the Ducks are trailing in terms of the Pacific Division. They only trail them by 2 points, which is not too bad. It could have been a whole lot worse. So we'll see what happens with the Ducks and the Kings going forward. So the Ducks' next game will be this upcoming Friday, as they play the Seattle Kraken at the Honda Center. And then their next game after that will not be until the following Wednesday, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday when they head up to Calgary to take on the Calgary Flames. So there's that for the Ducks. And as for the Kings, they are back at it on Tuesday at, I almost said Staples Center, Crypto.com Arena to take on the Edmonton Oilers. And that's actually not this Saturday, or this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. The following Friday, they've got a big matchup against the Vegas Golden Knights, which that could be the difference between finishing first in the Pacific Division or finishing second or third. So there is that for the Kings and the Ducks right there. We'll jump to the NBA, just because I already talked some basketball, and then we'll jump to a commercial break, and then we've got the Dum Dum of the Week awards. Not just awards, which it's going to knock your socks off. So the Clippers and the Lakers did face one another on this past Thursday, and before the Clippers faced the Lakers, they actually had one more matchup on their little winter road trip, two more matchups prior to that. Well, three actually. So last Friday, the Clippers lost to the Miami Heat 121-114. And this past Sunday, the Clippers stomped on the Hornets 115-90. And then the Clippers, to my utter dismay, lost to the Indiana Pacers 122-116. I was out here saying the Clippers were not going to lose to the Pacers, but I was wrong. So as for the Lakers, on the other hand, before they got to play the Clippers, they actually had the honor of playing the Portland Trailblazers, and they also played the Atlanta Hawks, they played the Hornets as well. Last Friday, they played the Hornets, where they lost to them 117-114. Then they played the Hawks and lost to them 129-121. And then they finally broke that little losing streak against the Trailblazers, barely beating them 99-94. Keep in mind, this was a Trailblazers team that was just kind of in the midst of a rebuild. I'll be talking about that in a little bit later. So, as for the Lakers-Clippers matchup, I didn't get to really see much of this matchup just because I actually was wanting my brother to see this, but seeing as he wasn't, I was able to turn on TNT, and I found out that the Lakers were getting stomped on, crushed, walloped, dominated. You get the drill. But then something happened in the second half. The Lakers started to turn around, and they eventually went up by 2 late in the fourth quarter with about less than a minute to go, and Malik Monk hit a 3 to put him up 2, and I'm thinking Lakers could actually win this one. Unfortunately, the Clippers had other plans for that, as the Clippers had Reggie Jackson come up big for the Clippers, as I believe he was the one that made the 3-pointer, if I'm not mistaken, as one of the Clippers players came up big with a clutch 3-pointer, as it was Marcus Morris Sr. So Marcus Morris Sr. hit a big 3-pointer. It looked as if his foot was on the line, but it wasn't. So I'm just thinking, come on, Lakers, play better defense than that. And that's the problem with this Lakers team. They don't play defense. They're old. They don't hustle back, and they don't play with heart, which is very frustrating. And it's not all Frank Vogel's fault. It's the players that are just old, and basically they're just not in their prime anymore. They have some players that are young and in their youthful days, in their prime. But other than that, it's just not looking... It just hasn't gelled together. So after the Marcus Morris 3-pointer, the Lakers were able to get an alley-oop from Anthony Davis with the assist coming from Russell Westbrook. That left 12 and a half seconds remaining, and neither team had a timeout. That was plenty of time for the Clippers, as Reggie Jackson just took the ball. He even galloped up the court and just drove the lane. He drove basically to the baseline, juked out some of his defenders, and he was able to make a driving layup, which that was very impressive. He couldn't have placed that ball any better. And then the Lakers had one last gasp, and they eventually got the ball to Anthony Davis. Remember, they didn't have LeBron James, so they couldn't have him take the shot. And he was able to try to make a driving lean-in shot or a floating jump shot. But unfortunately, it rimmed in and out, and that was basically the game. The Lakers lost to the Clippers 111 to 110. And honestly, the Lakers gave the Clippers a little too much time. I think they should have left the Clippers with about 5 seconds. But regardless, it was still a tough loss. And just like Larry B said in the chat room last time the Lakers lost a game, or last time I talked about the Lakers, it just makes you want to throw a pizza at your TV. And yes, a pizza. Or you basically want to throw a pillow up at a fan that's going full blast. Regardless, it was just another bad loss for the Lakers, and it was frustrating to say the least. So the Clippers are back at tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks, and we'll just go all the way to like Friday or Saturday. The Clippers schedule does pick up, like I mentioned last week, as the Clippers hit the road to the Bluff City Classic to take on Memphis on Tuesday. Then on Thursday and Saturday, the Clippers head down to D-Town to take on the Dallas Mavericks. And then Monday, or next Monday, the Clippers play the Golden State Warriors, then follow that up with a matchup against the Phoenix Suns next Tuesday. That's back-to-back matches. So that's going to be a brutal trip for the Clippers. As Adam says, throw a pizza. Who would want to waste a pie like that? Well, that's just how frustrating it is watching the Lakers. And I totally agree with Larry from last week. It just sucks that the Lakers have just not been meeting the expectations. But again, their roster is so not so goodly structured, as it's just filled with old players, and guys are getting injured. They haven't really been at full strength all that much. So that's how frustrating it is. Like, they didn't have LeBron for a good chunk of their matchups, and until last night when the Lakers played the Knicks. And then Carmelo was forced out due to a hamstring injury against the Clippers, which also kind of hurt them. So it really sucks, but it is what it is. And the Lakers were able to get back on track following that Clippers loss, as they defeated the Knicks 122 to 115. Believe it or not, the Lakers actually were down, 22? And they just got LeBron back, like I just mentioned. Like, this was the matchup that LeBron came back to, and boy howdy, the Lakers definitely needed him in the worst way, as the Knicks actually led by as many as 21, and it looked as if this was over, but fortunately for the Lakers, they battled back in the second half. They forced overtime after the fourth quarter, and then they eventually won it, which was impressive. It's actually the biggest comeback of the season for the Lakers, which is quite nice. Like, the fact that the Lakers have had such a droll season, I think a win like this is pretty solid, despite the Knicks just not being all that great. As LeBron James did have a triple-double, that was actually his 103rd triple-double. So the fact that he was able to put up numbers despite him coming back from an injury, a knee injury, is quite something. So good on the Lakers for getting that win over the Knicks. I kind of forgot it was at Staples Center, but I also forgot that the Lakers were done with their little road trip. Regardless, the Lakers play the Milwaukee Bucks on Tuesday, and then they hit the road to the Northwest to take on the Portland Trail Blazers. Then this Saturday, the Lakers head up to Northern California to take on the Golden State Warriors. Now, the schedule is also going to pick up for the Lakers as well, as you got the Bucks, the Trailblazers, which is kind of in a little bit of a rebuild mode, and then they've got the Warriors on Saturday, the Jazz the following Wednesday, then the Clippers again the following Friday, and then the Pelicans, which I wouldn't really call them a big matchup right there, but it is going to be nationally televised. So So for the Lakers, this is kind of their time to get some wins, though it's going to be tough. But with LeBron and AD back, I think this is kind of going to be where they have to basically pull up or shut up. So currently right now, the Lakers are in the ninth in the Western Conference, as they would still be in the play-in game, while the Clippers are actually 8th in the Western Conference, as they too would be in the play-in game. I'm surprised Minnesota is doing really well. That's kind of a scary combination right there. The Timberwolves and actually doing well. So for me, there's plenty of time for the Lakers and the Clippers, especially since All-Star Weekend is just around the corner. But for the Lakers, they desperately need the wins more so than the Clippers. The Clippers I could still see being a lock, even though they're not going to get Kawhi Leonard back anytime soon. So there's that right there. Before we head to our commercial break, we got to make note of the Clippers' trade with the Portland Trailblazers, as they just managed to they managed to get a big trade. But before that trade happened, this was actually released via the NBA. The Clippers don't know if Paul George or Kawhi Leonard will return this year. If they don't, it's one thing if they don't have Kawhi Leonard, but if they don't have Paul George, then that's going to be scary right there. No Paul George and no Kawhi, that is concerning. However, the Clippers did make a trade with the Portland Trailblazers, as they acquired Robert Covington and Norman Powell, which was quite nice. The Clippers did have to give up quite a bit for that trade, as they had to give up some draft picks, and they had to give up I wouldn't call it a number of players, but they had to give up not like half their roster, but they had to give up a good chunk of their players. They lost a lot of players more so than they gained. So I basically saw this tweet that the Clippers had made a big splash in terms of a big trade, as they traded Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a future second-round pick. And I think they traded the Detroit Pistons' pick to the Blazers. So yeah, the Clippers are also sending the second-round pick from the Pistons, and they're also sending a future second-round pick to the Trailblazers. So the Clippers did acquire Robert Covington and Norman Powell, and I kind of had to figure out who those two were, but thinking about it, the Clippers kind of needed some star power, and eventually, since that they're going to, especially if they're preparing for if they do not have Kawhi or Paul George. Kawhi doesn't look like he's coming back this season, and Paul George is still on the shelf. So for me, I think the Clippers are preparing to have superstars without Kawhi Leonard or Paul George, and they're going to try to scrap with what they've got. I don't think the Clippers are a top 4 team, aka I don't think the Clippers will make it to past the second round. And same can be said for the Lakers, because if I had to pick who are the top 4 teams in the West that I think can make it to the second round, my top 4 teams would be the Warriors, the Suns, the Jazz, and the Grizzlies. Everyone else, I think, is a distant second in terms of making it out of the first round. Unless something tragic happens, or someone makes a big splash of a trade. But we'll see what happens going forward. So, we're actually going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we're actually going to jump right into the Dum Dums of the week. or I'm actually going to have the Dum Dum of the Week Award recipients. Yes, I said the word recipients, not recipient, as we've got multiple Dum Dum of the Week Award recipients right here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Law.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. They're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
college football? And do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I A in the FBS? Well then look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
That is right, everybody. Definitely do check out 3 and Out College Edition here on iSports Radio. Larry B and I just wrapped up College Edition, and we probably won't be going live until July, and maybe we might be going on when the NFL Draft Combine is over and done with. But regardless, definitely do check out 3 and Out College Edition. We just wrapped up Season 2 of College Edition. And that's actually perfect segue to go into the Dum Dum of the Week Award recipients. Yes, I said the word recipients, as we've got more than one Dum Dum of the Week Award recipients to name, as we have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 Dum Dum of the Week awards to give out. And the Dum Dum of the Week Award is basically an award I like to give out to people or an organization that does stupid things. It could be anyone in the world. It could be in my backyard. It could be across the globe. No one is safe from the Dum Dum of the Week Award. And the first Dum Dum of the Week Award is, well, you know the old saying, there's no such thing as a bad question? Well, that actually is incorrect. Well, for my aspect. So, this happened last Friday with me at the Tyler Hildebrand meet and greet, as I actually met Tyler Hildebrand. I interviewed him. Basically, it was for Set Point, just because I wanted to get in on the action and talk to him about what it means to be at Long Beach State in terms of being the new women's volleyball head coach. And for those that actually listen to my interview on when I did Set Point the other day, you're probably thinking, well, what bad did you do with that, Teran? You obviously didn't ask something bad, did you? Well, let's just say I kind of broke a bit of a rule when it came to IE Sports Radio. I'll let you all listen in.
One of Nebraska's players, Callie Schwarzenbach, has arrived here at Long Beach State. What can you say about Callie, and how does it feel to reunite with her?
We're lucky to have her.
Should I have not?
I don't think we like officially.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Then never mind. Forget that question asked. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I asked a recruiting question. First of all, when it comes to IE Sports Radio, and this isn't a bad thing, I actually kind of forgot this rule. My boy Larry B in the chat room, who just said Clash Time, he was talking about the Clash at the Coliseum, or the Busch Light Clash, or the Busch Light Clash. My boy Larry B one time told me when we were interviewing a pair of high school athletes for 3 and Out College Edition, he said never to ask recruiting questions. And I should have known darn well to never, ever ask a recruiting question like that again. I should not have even made note of this question. I shouldn't have even said anything about the player that transferred from Nebraska to Long Beach State. Now I felt guilty afterward. Fortunately, the Long Beach State SID, who was standing right behind me when I was doing the interview, she said it was no problem, but I still felt guilty, and that was downright embarrassing. It's like I broke Larry B's trust. Well, not like trust, but I broke Larry B's rule, and I know it's not a big rule. It's obviously a harmless mistake, and I didn't play that on Set Point, but I should have known better. I really should have known better than to ask a recruiting question to a newly hired women's volleyball coach. And this is kind of a little bit of a tip for all you interviewers out there. Never ask recruiting questions unless the whole transfer process is set in ink, the ink is dried, and it's official, and they put out a press release, or said team puts out a press release. But seeing as I pretty much presumed that the transfer was official, I was very foolish enough to ask that question, and I kind of was a little bit embarrassed about that. Again, it was all good because Tyler, I shouldn't have put Tyler in that situation, and I should have known better than to ask that question when the SID is right behind me. But for me asking that question, breaking Larry B's rule of never ask recruiting questions as a member of iSports Radio, I am this week's Dum Dum of the Week Award recipient number 1.
So dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Yep, I told y'all. See, anyone can be Dum Dum of the Week when it comes to the Dum Dum of the Week Award recipients. I can even be Dum Dum of the Week. So for those of you that are probably saying, "Oh, I bet you Teran never picks himself for Dum Dum of the Week," you're wrong. But it gets better. It gets much better when it comes to Dum Dum of the Week. That was only Dum Dum of the Week Award recipient number 1. Number 2 just so happens to be some person I managed to run into while I was on my job. So it was early in the morning, and I was working at a grocery store. I was sweeping outside, and I noticed this penny, and I just basically left that penny alone. I didn't pick it up just because I didn't feel the need to pick it up, and I know where that penny was. Then some I want to say he's like in his 50s or something. Some geezer dude comes out of the store, ready to hop on his bike, and he says, Hey, you young man, look there, there's a penny. It's sitting right there. Did you know that? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of did. I didn't want to pick it up. And then the dude picks it up. He's like, I just made a 1-cent profit. And then I'm like, well, good, congratulations. He's like, you could have made a 1-cent profit right there, buddy. And then I'm just like, cool. And I'm like, congrats, bud. And then he just rode off. I'm just going to say this right now. First of all, it's just a penny. The fact that pennies are becoming extinct means I'm not going to pick it up. Like, you picked up a penny, and you made a huge deal of it. You were celebrating like you just won the lottery, and you mean to tell me you were happy about that? First of all, there are many things that can get on my nerves. One is disturbing me while I'm working, while I'm making that hard-earned cash, which is more than a penny. The fact that you decided to have the audacity to making a huge deal of picking up a penny off the ground and saying that you made a profit, you basically not only wasted my time, but you wasted your own time, and like that penny, your talk was cheap. So the fact that you, my friend, the random person who decided to make a big deal of picking up a penny off the ground, and we don't even know where this penny came from, like it could have been elsewhere, it could have probably been in the mud, or someone could have spit on it, or any of that sort. You are this week's Dum Dum of the Week Award recipient number 2, Mr. Parsimonious Penny Pincher.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Adam Carnick in the chat room says, remind me sometime to tell about the penny drive I used to help with. Over $20,000 raised, half of which were pure pennies. Okay, well that's that's another topic though. And I understand that. But some person that was basically disturbing me while I was at work, he made me take 2 minutes out of my time just so I could see him picking up a penny and making him have a big deal about that. Kind of was just a little bit of a waste. And it's like, come on. You made me stop 2 minutes of my work just to see you happy about it. And it's like, come on. Be better, man. Like, be over-exaggerant elsewhere, but just don't be over-exaggerant toward me while I'm working, making that hard-earned cash. So that was Dum Dum of the Week award recipient number 2. Number 3, now we got to jump back into the world of sports. So this Dum Dum of the Week is probably... Now, this guy has always been kind of a dum-dum, in my opinion. I personally think that he has been quite the smack talker. He makes Jalen Ramsey look like a choir boy. And we're obviously talking about Eli Apple, the cornerback for the Cincinnati Bengals. So, Eli Apple, obviously, he loves to talk smack, and he likes to make a big deal of things. After the Bengals won, he took to Twitter to obviously voice his opinion and to make some strong claims. So after the game, Eli Apple went to Twitter and he said, he quote tweeted someone after Eli Apple made a big stop on Tyreek Hill to end the second quarter. He called Tyreek Hill a baby. Now, obviously Tyreek Hill is also one to talk smack, but to call him a baby and at him, that's going a little too far. I understand he likes to talk smack to people, but you don't need to do that, dude. You're basically stirring the pot. But it gets worse with this guy. He basically said that Trey Flowers locked up 87, referring to Travis Kelce. Now, he obviously didn't at Travis Kelce, but he said Trey Flowers locked up 87. And the stat line for Travis Kelce was 10 catches, 95 yards, and 1 touchdown. Eli Apple said that Trey Flowers locked up Travis Kelce despite him having 10 catches for 95 yards and 1 touchdown. That is not locking up. This guy was talking out the side of his mouth. It's like, what? It's like, bro, you can't just say... I was just laughing at this. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is just too much. I get it, Eli Apple has been all over the place, and he's definitely been an annoying nuisance, whether it was with the Saints or the Giants or whomever. Eli Apple obviously has been that nuisance. And then afterwards, and this was after the game, mind you, he said that, Mecole Hardman, or at Mecole Hardman 4, at Cheetah, which is Tyreek Hill, DM me y'all number, and I'll hook y'all up with them Super Bowl tickets on me. And I'm like, oh my god, it's like, you don't need to gloat in front of them. And Tyreek Hill actually was rather professional. He said, no Twitter beef, big dog, just hit my line. When Eli Apple called Tyreek Hill a baby. It's like, yeah, Eli did not need to, go that far. He didn't need to, at Tyreek. Now, if he just said he a baby and not added Tyreek, I guess that's fine. But when you at the person and that person sees that notification, you basically are stirring up a pot of trouble for yourself. I get it. The Bengals are a good, feel-good story. But honestly, it's rather disgusting. I hate when I see trash talkers or people flexing all over themselves just because they won a game. It's bad karma eventually. So, Eli Apple, for you calling Tyreek Hill a baby, and for for all your trash talk, despite you only making one big tackle to end the second quarter, which prevented Tyreek Hill from going into the end zone. Other than that, you didn't really do much. You, my friend, Eli Apple, are this week's Dum Dum of the Week award recipient number 3.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And yes, Adam, Eli Apple has been everywhere. So, that's Dum Dum of the Week award recipient number 3. Now, Dum Dum of the Week award recipient number 4, I could not do it. I just could not do this number 4 thing. This person right here, I was just astounded on what happened. So for those of you that have been listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show ever since probably the first week of 2022, I've been trying to tell people to please stop assuming. And even I need to stop assuming sometimes as well. This, however, kind of takes the cake of assuming. So, oh my goodness. Jim Trotter. Everyone knows who Jim Trotter is. He's a real nice guy, and he's basically been all over the place for NFL. He's a reporter for the NFL, and this NBA reporter, coming off of a small market website, tried to ask a question to him. Now, obviously, there are bad questions, there are good questions. There's never really such thing as a dumb question. This, however, was kind of the question that took the cake. So he emailed Jim Trotter. He says, trying to reach Junior Seau. Let me say that again. The title of this email was Trying to Reach Junior Seau. Okay, for those of you that don't know, Junior Seau sadly took his life in 2012, which was really saddening. I almost could not believe this email. I was like, are you kidding me? What is with the assumptions of things? So, this email reads to Jim Trotter. Good morning, Mr. Trotter. I am trying to reach Junior Seau to hear what he thinks of the NFL donating $1 billion toward the cannabis industry to study the impact of cannabinoids on treating pain management. And then he basically puts his little business that he's working for. I won't name the guy, nor will I name the business, just because I'm not like that. And he says, please give me a call at your convenience. Best regards. I'm just going to also say Jim Trotter didn't do a good job of blacking out his whole name and his whole organization. And this eventually had news surface all over the internet as Awful Announcing posted an article about this, then Mediaite.com posted this, and then Newsbreak also posted this. A lot of websites posted about this reporter asking Jim Trotter about trying to reach Junior Seau. Then he replies, then Jim Trotter, being the professional that he is, he tells Jim to Google what happened to Junior Seau. He says, Google it yourself. And here's what the reporter replied to that. So this reporter replies, what was the problem, Jim? I have been doing this for over 30 years. 30 years of reporting. I prefer to do my own interviews rather than rely on Google. I almost couldn't believe that. It's like, you've been doing this for 30 years, yet you didn't know what happened with Junior Seau? Adam says, wow, only 10 years too late and still insensitive. I don't know what to say about this. I almost couldn't believe... This was almost too good to be true. Like, this was just... Oh my god. I just was so... I was flabbergasted at this. And then the final email... I guess Jim explained what happened to Junior Seau. And then the final email from this reporter says, I apologize. I'm primarily a basketball writer, and I did not know what happened to Junior. I was unaware. So you mean to tell me a basketball reporter was trying to reach a football player who apparently sadly passed away and he was about to do an NFL story? I couldn't believe what I saw. It's like, this is just, oh my god. This probably takes the cake for Dum Dum of the Year. Oh my, I was just flabbergasted when I saw this. I just couldn't believe what I saw. I almost didn't want to believe that this was true, but obviously Jim Trotter would not post something that's faux pas. But, oh my goodness, Mr. Reporter, who works for this small organization, who asked probably one of the more inconvenient questions instead of just using Google and just researching where Junior Seau was and what had happened to him prior. You are this week's Dum Dum of the Week Award recipient, number 4.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
That was my bad. I thought the volume wasn't cranked up on my speaker. But that's Dum Dum of the Week Award recipient, number 4. Now, number 5, and this will definitely be it. I know I'm probably boring y'all with my Dum Dum of the Week awards, but this Dum Dum of the Week award probably is the one that pulled my hair out the most. So, on Friday, after I got done with work, I went over to my alma mater's high school boys basketball game. It was Newport Harbor versus Corona Del Mar in boys basketball, Battle of the Bay. And obviously it was a packed house. And the game wasn't what made me pull my hair out the most. What made me pull out my hair, obviously, was what happened before the game. So we needed a new PA. We obviously needed a new PA announcer because the previous one wasn't there, and unfortunately, I don't know what happened to the other PA announcer. I think he might have had other things to do, or maybe COVID happened. Hopefully not. But the PA announcer, which was basically the Frosh-Soft coach, or the freshman coach of Newport Harbor High School boys basketball, he needed to find someone to do the Star Spangled Banner. He needed to find someone to sing the Star Spangled Banner just because they didn't have someone that could sing the national anthem, which unfortunately it really sucks just because I feel bad for him because he had to scramble all over the place to try to find a singer to sing the national anthem. Whereas he probably could have played the national anthem on his phone and then just dealt with it right there. But instead he was able to find, I guess, 2 cheerleaders or 2 students from Newport Harbor to sing the national anthem. But this was kind of what pulled out my hair. The singers obviously tried their hardest, but it was clear as day that these 2 singers or cheerleaders or students or whoever they were, they had stage fright to the fullest, and they were basically giggling when trying to do the national anthem. Now, I as an individual do not take living here in America for granted. I think it was absolutely disappointing that the girls were embarrassed, and I know that they were nervous, but if you didn't want to do it, just don't do it. Don't go making yourself look like a fool in front of so many eyes and ears. I'm pretty sure there was like over 1,000 people in the gymnasium looking and listening to you. Like, part of me actually wanted to volunteer to sing the Star Spangled Banner myself, or the national anthem myself. However, I just couldn't pull myself to do so. But now looking back on it, I probably should have just volunteered and done the best I could, even if it meant reading off of a script. But for these 2 girls or students to basically just go out and sing the national anthem while giggling and just basically absolutely whiffing on all aspects, it's downright embarrassing, and it's embarrassing for your school. You're representing the school. It's like, gosh dang, man. Like, if an adult accidentally messes up, it's no big deal, but a student messing up, 2 students messing up the national anthem and just making the whole school look like a complete idiocracy, it's absolutely ridiculous. I feel bad that I even had to listen to that, and the PA announcer, aka the Frosh-Soft coach, he wanted to roast the girls, but credit to him, he just could not pull himself to do so. But to the 2 students that sang the national anthem while giggling on the mic, you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week Award recipient, number 5.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
my friends, is all she wrote. I was not kidding you when I said there was a lot of Dum Dum of the Week award recipients. Obviously, there was me who asked the recruiting question, which was a big fat no-no. I should know better than to go against Larry V's wish. Then there was the guy who made a huge deal of finding the penny. Then there was Eli Apple with his Twitter beef just after the win. And then there was the reporter who asked about Junior Seau, who had been working in the journalism industry for 30 years. And then there was the girls that basically giggled and laughed while doing the national anthem, where they could have had someone else do it, or the PA announcer could have just played the national anthem on their phone. Regardless, my advice to you all, please don't do anything dumb. I will make sure you pay for it in spades. But on that note, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. We had a lot to cover and recap, and we had a lot to basically go over. But without any further delay, it's time we get on out of here, because we have 3 more shows to close out IE Sports Radio throughout the rest of the day. You dig? Thank you everyone for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I definitely appreciate you all tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen while cooking your food, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time of the day, I really do appreciate you. Big shout out to the chat room, Adam Harnett, Mike Pat, and Larry V for popping on in. I appreciate you all tuning in and listening, especially Adam for listening to the Dum Dum of the Week award recipients. I appreciate you. Salute to you, Adam. He says, good stuff, Teran. I appreciate you. Definitely do check out Chi-Town Weekly and the Neutral Zone. Chi-Town Weekly will be on tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, while Neutral Zone is on at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. Definitely do check it out. Adam, as well as Zach Hubbles, do a great job with that show, and Adam obviously does amazing things with Chi-Town Weekly. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. You all have yourselves a great start to the week, starting tomorrow. Please don't do anything dumb, otherwise I kind of got to call you out on it. So be a good person, be a good human being, and honestly, I will see you all Monday, or tomorrow, for Set Point. Have a great week, everybody. Take care of one another, be safe, and remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!